In 1946, the United States secretly offered to buy Greenland from Denmark for $100 million in gold. Denmark said no. Now, nearly 80 years later, President Trump just declared the United States will take control of Greenland, whether they like it or not. This isn't just rhetoric anymore. And three superpowers are racing for control of the world's largest island. If you want to understand what's really happening in the Arctic right now, hit that subscribe button, because this situation is escalating faster than anyone predicted. So here's the question everyone's asking. Why does the United States want a massive frozen island with only 57,000 people living on it? The answer comes down to three critical factors that are reshaping global power in the 21st century. First, location. Greenland sits at the intersection of North America, Europe, and the Arctic Ocean. During World War II, when Nazi Germany occupied Denmark, the United States immediately established a military presence on Greenland to prevent German forces from using it as a base. After the war, America didn't leave. In 1951, the U.S. and Denmark signed a defense agreement allowing America to build Thule Air Base in northwest Greenland, just 750 miles from the North Pole. This installation became one of the most critical early warning stations during the Cold War, designed to detect Soviet missiles crossing the Arctic. Today it's known as Patuxent Space Base, and it houses essential components of America's ballistic missile defense system and space surveillance network. The base tracks over 26,000 objects in space and provides missile warning data that gives the U.S. mainland crucial minutes of advance notice. Greenland also guards what's called the Guyuk Gap, the stretch of water between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. During the Cold War, NATO forces used this choke point to track Soviet submarines entering the North Atlantic. That strategic importance hasn't diminished, it's actually intensified. Climate change is transforming Arctic geopolitics in ways that seemed impossible just 2 decades ago. As ice melts at unprecedented rates, new shipping routes are opening. The Northwest Passage, which runs along the northern coast of North America near Greenland, could slash shipping time between Europe and Asia by thousands of miles compared to routes through the Suez or Panama canals. In 2024, more cargo ships successfully navigated Arctic routes than ever before in recorded history. Whoever controls or influences these routes will have enormous leverage over global trade. Greenland's position makes it indispensable. Then there are the resources buried beneath the ice. Greenland holds approximately 1.5 million tons of rare earth element reserves, ranking 8th in the world. According to geological surveys, the island may contain 25 of the 34 minerals that the European Commission classifies as critical raw materials. We're talking about rare earth elements: lithium, graphite, copper, zinc, gold, and potentially massive oil and gas reserves. But here's why this matters so much right now. China currently controls roughly 70% of global rare earth production and over 85% of processing capacity. Rare earth elements are essential for modern technology. They're in smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, military equipment, and advanced electronics. China's dominance gives Beijing tremendous leverage over the technology supply chains of every major economy. The United States and European nations have been desperately trying to diversify their sources, and Greenland represents one of the most promising alternatives. The Kvanefjeld deposit in southern Greenland contains one of the world's largest reserves of rare earth elements. Another site called Tanbreez also holds enormous potential. These deposits contain critical elements like neodymium and dysprosium, which are essential for the permanent magnets used in electric motors and wind turbines. Now here's where it gets really interesting. China, despite being thousands of miles from the Arctic Circle, declared itself a near-Arctic state in 2018 and launched something called the Polar Silk Road Initiative. This is China's strategy to expand its influence in the Arctic region through scientific research expeditions, infrastructure investments, and attempts to acquire natural resources. Over the past several years, China has tried to invest in Greenland's airports, mining operations, and even proposed building satellite ground stations. Most of these projects were blocked due to security concerns from the United States and Denmark. But China hasn't given up. Chinese rare earth company Shenghe Resources currently owns 12.5% of the Gvanefjeld mine and signed an agreement in 2018 to lead processing and marketing of materials extracted from the site. China and Russia have been conducting joint military exercises in Arctic waters. Russian and Chinese Coast Guard vessels patrolled together in the Arctic for the first time in 2023. In 2024, both nations conducted combined bomber patrols near Alaska's Air Defense Identification Zone. They're also working together to develop the Northern Sea Route, an Arctic shipping passage along Russia's northern coast. This route, increasingly navigable due to melting ice, allows Russia to ship oil and gas to China while avoiding Western-controlled waterways. Last year alone, oil shipments from Russia to China via this route increased by 25%. Russia controls more than half of the Arctic Ocean coastline, and President Putin has made it clear that Russia considers the Arctic vital to its defense. Russia has been massively rebuilding its Arctic military infrastructure. The country is constructing new military installations, upgrading air bases, and developing advanced weapons systems, including hypersonic missiles, designed for Arctic deployment. In March 2025, Putin stated at an International Arctic Forum that Russia would closely monitor developments in the region and increase its military capability in response to NATO activity. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared in 2024 that Russia is fully prepared for a potential conflict with NATO in the Arctic. President Trump's recent statements have taken an aggressive turn. On January 9, 2026, he told reporters at the White House, "We're going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not. Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor." He added that he would prefer to make a deal the easy way, but if necessary, the United States would do it the hard way. The White House confirmed that officials are actively discussing options to acquire Greenland, and they have not ruled out military action. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that while Trump prefers to buy Greenland rather than use force, the administration is keeping all options on the table. Reports emerged this week that the Trump administration is considering paying every Greenland resident between $10,000 and $100,000 to encourage the territory to secede from Denmark and join the United States. With Greenland's population around 57,000, this could cost anywhere from $500 million to nearly $6 billion. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has warned that any U.S. military action against Greenland would mark the end of NATO. 7 European leaders issued a joint statement defending Greenland's sovereignty and stating that only Denmark and Greenland can decide the island's future. But here's what makes this situation unprecedented. Greenlanders themselves overwhelmingly oppose becoming part of the United States. A 2025 poll showed that 85% of Greenland's population rejects the idea. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen wrote on social media, "No more pressure, no more hints, no more fantasies about annexation." Many Greenlanders do want independence, but independence from Denmark to become their own sovereign nation, not to join the United States. Despite Trump's claims, vessel tracking data doesn't show Greenland currently covered with Russian and Chinese ships. However, the broader Arctic competition is absolutely real. Russia and China are increasing their presence in Arctic waters, conducting joint operations, and positioning themselves for long-term strategic advantage. The race for Arctic resources and shipping routes is intensifying as climate change makes the region more accessible. Mining in Greenland faces enormous challenges. The harsh climate, lack of infrastructure, environmental regulations, and local opposition have prevented large-scale resource extraction. Currently, only one mine operates on the island, extracting a material used for rock wool insulation. In 2021, Greenland's government banned uranium mining, which effectively halted development of major rare earth projects because uranium is mixed with the rare earth deposits. The strategic competition over Greenland reflects something much larger, a fundamental shift in global power dynamics. The Arctic is no longer a frozen frontier. It's becoming a critical theater for economic competition, resource extraction, and military positioning. Control over Arctic shipping lanes, access to critical minerals, and the ability to project military power in the region will help determine which nations dominate the global economy in the decades ahead. The United States already maintains a significant military presence in Greenland through Patuffik Space Base and the 1951 Defense Agreement with Denmark. But American officials argue this isn't enough given the scale of Russian militarization and Chinese ambitions in the Arctic. European allies are now scrambling to demonstrate they can defend Greenland without U.S. intervention. Denmark announced it would invest over $6 billion in Arctic defense capabilities. France and Germany are working on contingency plans in case the United States attempts forcible acquisition. What happens next could reshape international relations for generations. If the United States takes aggressive action, it would shatter the NATO alliance and fundamentally alter the global order. If America backs down, China and Russia may interpret it as an opening to expand their own Arctic presence. And if Greenland achieves independence as many residents desire, it becomes vulnerable to influence from any nation willing to invest in its economy and infrastructure. This is the new Arctic reality. 3 superpowers competing for resources, shipping routes, and strategic advantage on an island most people couldn't find on a map 5 years ago. The decisions made about Greenland in the coming months will determine the balance of global power for the rest of this century. Here's my question for you. Do you think the United States should pursue control of Greenland, or should Greenland's future be decided entirely by Greenlanders themselves? Drop your answer in the comments below.